Anime is a diverse medium of art. Like, really, really diverse. As with most forms of media, common themes are often classified into genres, tropes, or archetypes in hopes of aiding their recognition amongst an audience. Sometimes, however, the goal isn't necessarily to connect with a pre-established idea, rather to give the audience a brand new way of looking at things. Today, I'll be counting down my top 5 philosophical anime, what makes them interesting, and why they're worth your time to watch. Remember, these are only representative of my own opinions. If you have a different list, let me know what it is in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Number 5. Death Parade. Death Parade is a supernatural, psychological thriller about a group of not quite mortals, not quite gods called arbiters, whose goal is to determine the outcome of recently deceased couples. Either being sent to an infinite void or reincarnated, each pair has to play games set up by the arbiters in hopes of drawing out their true nature for judgment. While all seems regulated and bureaucratic at first, the concepts of virtue and wrongdoing get turned on their heads as the arbiters begin to question their own judgment. Focusing on concepts of ethics, Death Parade delves into all 3 main branches of moral philosophy: meta-ethics, normative ethics, and practical ethics. Each episode focuses on 2 new people, freshly dead and with most memories repressed. As they play the arbiters' games, each pair learns more about each other, their relationship, and how they ended up there in the first place. Throughout these episodes, the show does an incredible job of expressing the feelings behind each character's story. Each one is such a unique yet human experience that draws you right into the frustrations they're sharing. On the flip side, even though the arbiters aren't human, I can't help but feel like they represent the pull humanity has towards definition and order. While they wish, and maybe even convince themselves of clarity and resolution and human value, they grow more aware of the nuance in the interactions they judge, and struggle to quantify the value of life, experience, and exposure. With only 12 episodes in its runtime, Death Parade is a quick yet fulfilling showcase of relationships and inner demons. Number 4. Nier Automata version 1.1a. I'm actually not going to go too in-depth with this one because I made a video highlighting Nier pretty recently. If you want to hear more about it, there will be a link in the description. Following a group of androids tasked with protecting Earth from alien robots, Nier captures very human experiences while being almost entirely about robots. It tackles legitimate questions of ontology, ethics, and identity, while remaining clever and captivating in their delivery. Using comparisons between machines, androids, and humans gives the audience opportunities to think about each in their own respect, and then breaks down almost every preconception. The story is paced shockingly well for having such expansive source material to work from, and very little feels shoehorned in or unnecessary. Number 3. Death Note. Easily the most famous on this list, Death Note is dark, contemplative, and suspenseful, with a heavy focus on individual justice and law. Light Yagami, the series' protagonist, stumbles upon a Death Note, a journal with the power to kill anyone whose name is written in it. With this newfound power, Light assumes the role of God King, eliminating anyone he deems to cause more harm than good to society. While his vigilante justice seems to help at first, Light soon begins to fall down a hole dug by his own elitism. With strong themes of act utilitarianism, Death Note is able to elicit a complex mixture of emotions through inner monologue, relationships, and character development, rather than the frequent and intense fight scenes so often associated with shonen. Throughout the series, Light is accompanied by Ryuk, a death god who dropped his Death Note in the human world, pretty much for shits and giggles. Ryuk acts as a sort of mediator to Light, not for guidance, but to fulfill his own personal enjoyment. In this sense, he sort of shares the motivations of the audience, giving the perfect comedic relief to Light's otherwise dictator-like viewpoints. In contrast to Light with his extreme morals is the antagonist, L, who possesses basically no moral code. Motivated purely by the idea of catching Light, L's motivations border on hedonism. The main character having strong morals and the opposition being self-centered are common ideas, but Death Note pushes these boundaries by breaking the association of hero and villain with protagonist and antagonist. Number 2. Psychopaths. While I've almost binged it to completion, Psychopaths is one that I actually picked up pretty recently. In the near future, a computerized system named Sybil operates as a justice-based hive mind, able to automatically identify a person's personality, mental state, and statistical probability of committing crime. Sybil's decisions are carried out by inspectors like protagonist Akane Tsunemori, who command hounds, criminals who've taken up deals with the police in exchange for some freedoms. In addition to telling if and when a person will commit a crime, Sybil is also able to calculate whether or not they can be rehabilitated. Akane soon realizes things aren't as cut and dry as Sybil's systems make it out to be when she witnesses firsthand how things like trauma, labeling, and judgments can affect people's future and potential. Psychopaths is, admittedly, a bit of a slow burn compared to most other titles in its genre. Early on, its focus isn't really on stimulation, rather building and developing the extremely complex settings, characters, and concepts that inhabit its world. While it has some great action and pleasing animations, it takes a little time to get into the majority of them. That being said, I think the show would stand perfectly fine without any action at all. Having grown up reading science fiction books by authors like George Orwell and Philip K. Dick, the concepts of Psychopaths felt familiar, elaborative, and contemplative, taking questions of human nature and seeing how far they can be pushed when not bound by technical limitations. And like those science fiction giants that came before, Psychopaths offered me a unique experience where the only dull moments felt like a result of my own lack of attentiveness rather than an issue with the content. Number 1. To Your Eternity. I cannot sing my praises for this one loud enough, and I wish more people were talking about it. To Your Eternity is a historical fantasy anime following Fushi, an immortal entity that can turn into anything that is provided it with sufficient stimuli. First taking the form of a rock, then a wolf, then a boy, it seeks to learn about the world from a new perspective. Without having a specific, predetermined goal like most protagonists do, Fushi has to create meaning for himself, and he does this in the same way humans do, observing the world and people around him. This is where the main theme of the show comes into play, and I would argue is one that's uniquely based in anthropology, culture, and tradition. Throughout his journey, Fushi meets a number of people. What makes these characters incredible to me is they're actually composed of their own history. What I mean is, characters tend to feel like their personality is at the forefront of who they are, with their past experiences merely adding flavor and exposition without ever turning it into disposition. That's fine, of course, but it also isn't how real people work. We're nothing without our past experiences, the people we've seen, the places we've been, and the ideas we've been exposed to. To Your Eternity fully understands this, and the result is characters with completely individual beliefs, values, customs, and lifestyles that can change depending on who they've interacted with and when. Without a doubt, To Your Eternity is my top philosophical anime, and one that I could recommend to just about anybody. So, how was my list? Is there anything that you would change? Let me know down in the comments. And if you liked this video and want to see more, don't forget to like and subscribe.